Today I would like to show you my latest sculptural piece, which is once again in the Möbius theme. So lately I've been making these solid Möbius sculptures. They are sand cast out of aluminum, or in one case I made it in bronze, and they are practically triangular cross-section Möbius rings. So as a Möbius they only have one side and one single angle, but the cross-section is a triangle. I have been thinking lately that it would be interesting and nice to make this body hollow. So how to do that? Okay, so that if I could somehow peel this, just as if it was a potato, peel off the side, remember there's only one side, peel off the side and then unwrap it and then lay it down on a flat surface, because what I need would be the tailoring pattern of the surface of this. Now, okay, but how can I peel it? It's a solid metal, of course I cannot do that. First I try to map it somehow without doing any practical thing. Just look at the body and imagine that if I was a little ant and walk around the surface of it, and then in every quarter I try to map and draw down how it turns, how the curve has an inflection at some point, and try to wrap my mind around it, literally. And I couldn't really succeed. I've made a couple of versions, but later it turned out that none of them were really good. So if I cannot peel it, then I thought, okay, wrap my mind around, how can I wrap it? Now my first idea seemed to be a good idea, to dip it in beeswax. Just when you make candles, dip it in wax several times and then try to peel off, take off the wax in one piece and lay it down on a flat surface. Now it turned out to be a total disaster, pain in the ass, because the wax just really didn't want to come off the metal. But from there, okay, I said, let's wrap the body, the sculpture in a tape. I did that all around, and then I cut it along the edge. Remember, there's only one edge. I cut it on, and slowly I peeled it off. I laid it on the surface, and here we go. I found the tailoring pattern. Now, the situation, as you see, that it is a pattern that is overlapping. So it's something that technically you cannot cut out of one sheet of paper, because it overlaps. So the only way to do it, okay, you glue on to the end another part, or you have to do some trick, because at the end I wanted to make it I decided to make this piece in a copper sheet. So in a copper sheet you have a little more liberty, because, for example, if you forge the piece, the metal, you can make it longer, or you can bend the curves, and that way you can modify an original pattern that is not overlapping and turn it to an overlapping one. Now I have to admit that in this case I didn't succeed, because I have chosen a too thin metal, and it didn't have the volume, the material to move properly the metal. So at the end I made a solder joint, which is hardly visible, but it's there, and I made it that way. But I have been thinking, how maybe next time, how could I make it without soldering? It would be more elegant. And then I said, okay, one thing I can do, if I use a thicker copper sheet, and then I can move it more. The other thing you can do to cheat, because here you have to cheat the dimension, that you put a wrinkle in your sheet, something like this. And if you put this wrinkle there and you draw your tailoring pattern on the top and at the end you fold it open, your wrinkle, then there you can gain some length, some surface. Only that I have a feeling that one ring is not enough for some reason, and you have to put a pair of wrinkles, one in one side and one in the other side. And that way you can cheat a dimension and jump to the third one. Because even though this tailoring pattern doesn't have a volume, it is still somehow three-dimensional. Okay, but here we go. I made the copper sheet this way, and I decided that I want to stitch the edge, one edge. So I made numberless holes on both sides, and then it was not easy, but I managed to fold it back to the original shape, and then slowly I stitched it. It was a very difficult work. It took me days, but at the end I managed to do it. The meeting point of the endings of this stripe happened to be on the inside of the ring, which wasn't a comfortable place to make them meet, but it happened, and I decided that it is not soldered once because it would be very difficult to solder there, and I decided that it will be admittedly just a loose overlap. But it is understandable that in theory there it continues, and the edges are represented by the stitching. Now I thought that maybe the pattern I used could be arranged a bit better, and I had a question: what happens if I wrap my solid body, but when I arrive, of course you go around 3 times because it's triangular cross section, and when you arrive to your beginning point, you don't stop, but you go around again and again, and you wrap different layers on the surface, and then again you peel it off. What will it look like? And with the photo editor I put together the single pattern, and then I ended up with this this line. And there, now looking at this, now I can decide maybe a different way to cut it, because you can cut it wherever you want, as long as you cut it again at the same part of the pattern. And that way you can find maybe different shapes, which some of them might be more comfortable to fold it back. Also, maybe you will have the meeting point at the outer part of the ring, which can be nicer or not. So this is where I am now, and when I finished the piece, I decided to sprinkle some silver solder on it, and I gave it patina, which is partly brown, partly green, and then you have the silverish color, so it has a sort of planetary organic look, and this is how it came out. Thank you for your attention.